Here's something I've noticed after training hundreds of coaches. The ones who feel most responsible for their clients' results actually get worse outcomes. I know that sounds backwards. It sounds counterintuitive. But stay with me here, because understanding why this happens will fundamentally change how you think about your role as a coach. Here's the paradox. Coaches who feel most responsible for client results often get worse outcomes. The more responsibility we take on, the less our clients own their journey. It's like a seesaw. When we step up, they step back. And here's what makes this so tricky. This pattern is well-intentioned and often invisible. We genuinely want our clients to succeed, so we inadvertently take ownership of their accountability. We don't even realize we're doing it. But every time we take responsibility for whether they follow through, we're actually undermining the very outcome we're trying to create. When looking at accountability in coaching, it's really important to understand this distinction. Coach-driven accountability creates compliance. It looks like progress in the moment, but it's fragile and temporary. The moment the external pressure is removed, the behavior stops. This is not about the coach holding the client accountable. That actually doesn't create sustainable change. It creates compliance. Client-owned accountability, that's what creates lasting transformation. When clients hold themselves accountable, change becomes self-sustaining. It doesn't depend on you being there to check up on them. Let me show you what ICF says about this. Marker 8.02 tells us to partner with the client to design goals, actions, and accountability measures. Notice it says accountability measures, plural, and Marker 8.03 is explicit, acknowledges and supports client autonomy in the design of goals, actions, and methods of accountability. Notice the emphasis here. Partners with the client, supports client autonomy. The ICF markers point us towards shared design, not coach ownership. The client designs the accountability. We support them in that design. That's a fundamentally different posture than being their accountability partner. So what's actually wrong with being the accountability partner? Let me break this down. First, misplaced responsibility. It puts the coach on the hook for making sure the client succeeds. And as we talked about in the beginning, competencies around client responsibility, their responsibility is to implement change. It's not the coach's. Second, underdeveloped capacity. The client never develops their own accountability muscle. They learn to rely on external pressure rather than internal commitment. Third, unsustainable dynamics. The coaching relationship becomes a crutch rather than a catalyst. When coaching ends, the accountability system collapses. None of these serve your client's long-term growth. So what do we do instead? Let the client figure out how they want to be accountable to themselves. Ask questions like, how are you going to hold yourself accountable? Or how are you going to make sure that you do this for you? Or simply, how are you going to make sure this happens? You see what these questions do. They invite the client to design their own accountability system. What structures, reminders, or check-ins will they create for themselves? The emphasis is on them doing this for themselves, not for you, not to report back to you. What internal commitment will drive them forward when external support isn't present? Now, here's something important. When clients don't complete their actions, that's not failure, it's information. If they don't take the actions they planned, let's talk about what happened and why that didn't happen. Maybe we designed the wrong goals, maybe they designed the wrong action. Maybe after they left, they realized that those actions were not really all that important and we were talking about the wrong thing anyway. This is valuable data. Get curious about the gap between intention and action. What got in the way? What does this tell us about what the client truly wants or needs? Use this information to refine the approach together. That's partnership. Let me show you what this looks like in real conversation. There are two approaches you might take when checking in on actions. The accountability police approach sounds like, did you do what you said you would do? That creates judgment and evaluation. The client feels tested, and you become the authority figure. The exploratory approach sounds like, what happened for you with those actions? That opens space for learning and discovery. The client explores their own experience without defensiveness. The conversation becomes learning, not judgment. We're partners in discovery, not monitors of compliance. That distinction makes all the difference. Let me name some common mistakes I see coaches make around accountability. Personalizing client outcomes. Feeling like a failure when your client doesn't complete their actions. Their implementation choices are about them, not about your coaching quality. Becoming the mechanism. Making yourself the accountability mechanism through check-ins, reminders, or follow-up pressure. This trains clients to need you rather than themselves. Treating gaps as failures. Viewing incomplete actions as client failure or lack of commitment. Those gaps between intention and action are rich with insight and learning. The alternative is partnering, not policing. Recognizing that the client owns their outcomes and you own the quality of the partnership. Your role is to facilitate their self-accountability. So here's what I want you to remember. Client-owned accountability is the only kind that creates lasting transformation. When clients design and own their accountability systems, change becomes self-sustaining. It doesn't depend on you. Your job is to partner, not to police. Facilitate their thinking, support their autonomy, and explore their experience, not monitor, enforce, or take responsibility for their actions. So if you're not assigning homework and holding them accountable, what are you doing? That's exactly what we'll look at next, what client-owned action design actually looks like in practice.